Gosh, okay.
Here we go.
You've heard about drones and you've been wanting to get one. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to turn one of these into one of these. I'm getting a lot of questions asking how to get into FPV as cheaply as possible. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to go from absolutely having nothing to having everything you need to fly FPV and have a great experience as cheaply as possible. All right, let's do it. The Eachine EO10 is a great platform to get you into FPV cheaply and with a really durable frame. These little things are just about indestructible. You can't really hurt them. I'm sure if you really tried, you could, but I wouldn't do that with any other of my quadcopters because I'd break a prop or I'd, knock a board loose or something. These are just built to take a beating, and I love that. And they're so light. When they fly into stuff, they just kind of bounce off. There's no real damage to anything on these quadcopters. They're super cheap, and I think that they're one of the most stable little quadcopters you can get. It blows my mind how locked in just these little toys feel compared to even the hobby grade quadcopters that some people are trying to get locked in because the PID tuning's off. Anyways, these are a great platform, but the problem is they don't have much power, and the more weight you add to them, the more sloppy they get and the less fun they are to fly around because you don't have a whole lot of power to fly around and maneuver around stuff. So the trick to getting this platform to behave quite well whenever you're flying FPV is to keep it as light as possible. So let's take a look at the weight. Taking one of these right out of the box, no modifications, with the battery installed and weighing it, we get to 21.7 grams. So anything more than that, as we're flying FPV, and it's gonna start to feel super underpowered. So it's blinking, meaning it's ready to bind. You wanna make sure and set it on a level surface before you bind because it's trying to find level. And if you bind it on an unlevel surface, it's always gonna be drifting or flying funny. So make sure level surface, blinking lights, turn the controller on, it'll beep, and then you go full throttle and back, and then that means it's bound whenever this beeps the second time, and then the lights, you'll notice, are now on steady. So you can trim it out. I never trim these things out before I shoot my video. You'd think I'd learn to fly it before. No. Y'all are getting the first experience right out of the box. First time I've plugged the battery in on this one. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's trimmed out. Whew. So that's normal flight mode where you've got your throttle and your yaw on this side and you've got your pitch and roll on this side. Totally normal. Everyone gets that. Mode 2. Go America. All right, now let's talk about flight modes. Now for FPV, flight modes don't really matter because you're just going to want to be flying in the normal flight mode all the time. But I'll show you. So if you press the bottom button on the controller on this side, it'll beep and then it'll start flashing again, the lights. So that means you're in headless mode. Normally, I would not be able to spin it and go like that direction and then go back this way. It just makes, it might seem like that's easier to fly, but when you're flying FPV, it ruins everything. You don't want to do headless mode because as you're rotating, that's changing the inputs from your stick, so you don't want that. All right, so here's another crazy thing that you don't ever want to do. This one button to return mode, it's the top. So this one puts you into headless mode. If you press it again, it stops blinking. So you know you're back in normal mode. And this top one goes into one touch return. You can hit that at any time. And your quadcopter basically, whenever you plug it in, it takes note of the magnetic orientation of it. And so it says, okay, behind me, it's expecting that's where you're gonna be. So if you plug this in like this, and you start flying around, and you press this one touch to return button, it's just gonna fly that way. And then, whoa! And it just flies like backwards. That's all it does. All it is an automatic backwards flying button. When you're flying FPV, you don't want to mess with either of these buttons, but these two buttons on either side of this right stick, that is to trim it out. So you can play with those, and that helps it hover more easily. That's what I did just a second ago because it was drifting really bad, and that's what allows you to hover. Okay, so the cameras I'm gonna recommend to mount to your EO10 is going to be either the Eachine TX01 right here, or the Eachine TX02, which is right here. take a really close look and you're not gonna be able to tell which one is which. But the difference is that this one transmits at 25 milliwatts and this one transmits at 200 milliwatts. So there's a significant power increase moving to the TX02. What we're gonna be doing is popping this cover off, and then we've got our battery terminals on the back side. On the front is where the camera is gonna be sitting, and we're gonna basically be cutting the connectors off and then soldering them onto where the battery terminals are. The next part of this kit that we're gonna be looking at are FPV goggles that will receive and display the signal that these little video transmitters are putting out. These goggles are lightweight, they're cheap, and they work, and they have everything built in. There's a built-in receiver, it comes with an antenna, you can switch your channels with this button here. It has a battery pack that comes with it that also displays how full it is right there. That's pretty cool. It plugs right in, and the one thing that I like about these goggles, I think the most, is that it doesn't take any crazy charging adapter. You basically, it comes with this micro USB cable, you plug it in the side, and you just plug that into a 5-volt cell phone charger, and this battery starts charging. That is brilliant. I like that a lot. That way you can always charge your battery no matter where you're at. So it has this stretchy strap to wrap around your head. That also holds the battery pack. And this thing is surprisingly light. I don't know, I mean, compared to my Fat Sharks and some head plays and stuff, all of the FPV goggles that you put on, they look like this big massive deal, but you put it on and you're like, oh, okay, that's actually not that heavy. And these are no exception. These feel nice and light. There's a lot of really nice foam. It's really thick around the edges, so there's no pinch points. There's nothing that's uncomfortable about this. It fits on your face really comfortably. Everything about this is pretty amazing, except for me, I don't know if my eyes are just set in my head at a weird level, but when I put this on, the way it wants to fit on my face, I feel like my eyes are looking at the bottom of the screen. And the way I fix that is I take these goggles and I shift them down so my nose like goes inside where the nose is supposed to rest on the top of the nose. I push it down, and then at that point the screen, it kind of feels more natural, like I'm looking straight at the center of it. I'm not having to like look up. It's kind of a weird thing to explain, and everyone's gonna be different. I know my face geometry is not like everyone else's. These are the goggles that I'm gonna recommend, mostly because they're super cheap, but also because they're comfortable and they just work so dang well. The last thing that I'm gonna recommend is extra batteries. The Eachine EO10 comes with one battery and a charger, which is great for starting off, but whenever you're flying FPV, man, you want to burn pack after pack after pack, and you don't want any downtime of charging. So I'm going to recommend that you get some extra batteries. So the extra batteries that I recommend are these Eachine batteries. Eachine is on point. They really know that people want to buy these to fly FPV. So all of their components they're putting out are kind of geared towards letting people fly FPV and have good experience. These batteries have a 45C discharge rate, which is much higher than the 30C you get with stock. And you feel a big difference, trust me. You feel a very big difference between these batteries and these batteries. It feels like you've got performance motors and everything's like working way better. And that's only because the battery changed. So before you start popping in new expensive motors and playing with the props and all that crazy stuff, I would suggest, honestly, just get some batteries with the highest discharge C rating that you can get, and that's going to make a big difference. One thing you do need to be careful of when charging batteries with this, there's not a balance charger, they're all just being charged in parallel. Don't plug one in and then 20 minutes later come in and plug one that's totally empty or totally dead in as well. You need to start charging all of your batteries at the same time with the same voltage. If that makes sense, I hope so. Okay, when soldering the connections from your VTX to your board, you want to be very careful not to reverse the polarity. So you want to make sure that you understand which terminal is positive and which is negative. There's a couple different ways to do that very easily. The first and easiest one that I think is whenever you plug in the battery, look at red and black. So red is on this side, black is on that side, so you know that this side is positive and that side is negative. If you don't have a battery handy, pull that out. And you want to look really carefully. I'm not sure if you can see it, but on the board on this side, you've got positive labeled in white on the green board just below the connector, and then negative on this side. So you can see that there is a designation printed on the board itself. So we know that this side is positive. Double check. Yep, that's right. So when we mount this, we want to make sure that the positive wire and the negative wire go like that. That being the front of the quad. So you don't have to be pretty. You don't have to be super accurate. Just make sure that they're on there and they're not just gonna fall off. You don't have a cold solder joint. You wanna make sure that they're connected. Alrighty, so we'll take a close look at those. Make sure there's no bridging in between the positive and negative. Everything looks good. We've got some good solder blobs. Everything looks like it's gonna hold. It's not coming off. All right, now that we've got the camera soldered in, we're gonna go ahead and take a piece of electrical tape to insulate any of these shorts that might happen on the top of the main board, and we're gonna put it down. Be careful not to let the tape go into the ducted fans where the fans will actually hit it. So you want to not be blocking any airflow. You just want to be making sure that there are no contacts from the video transmitter contacting on the main board. So we're just going to sit it on top of that. And so the way that I've found to, as lightly as possible, fasten the camera to the quadcopter is just with a super light rubber band. So we're just going to put it over one side like this, and then just give it a twist, and then go back over the same side. And so when you're done, whoops, we're gonna make sure that there's a rubber band on either side of the battery tray, and then it's going to be making an X over the center board. Because the rubber band is wanting to go back towards the center of the board, it will hold the camera in place quite well. And you can do different camera tilts and angles with this as well. So let's say you wanted to fly like a crazy man, you could set it up where the camera is tilted like that, or by changing the tension of the rubber bands, you can increase or decrease the angle. So let's say we wanted to fly a little bit more moderately, we can do that by pulling on the rubber bands, just kind of like suspenders. And then now we've got more of a level viewpoint off the camera. So that, I think, is probably one of the lightest ways to mount the camera onto the EO10. So now we're looking at basically a tiny whoop, and all we did was 2 solder connections. Boom, no problem. That's not difficult. If you want to get crazy, you can take the cover and you can cut the nose off of it. See there how I cut the nose off? And you can use that to kind of hold the camera in place. Let's see here. We'll clip this guy in. Relax it. And that way you've now got, that rubber band is not going anywhere, and this thing is not going to fall off or anything. So I like this solution a lot better. It's cleaner and it's a lot less weight than having a 3D printed bracket. I mean, shoot, I have a 3D printer. I 3D print stuff all the time just for the heck of it. And I found that with just a rubber band, you save quite a bit of weight, and all of that weight savings adds up, and you eventually get a much more powerful feeling quadcopter when you're flying. So I'm at A5. If I want to change the band again, I'm going to press and hold until it starts flashing. Let's go to band F, and then I'll just leave it. And now it says F5, F5. So if I want to change to F1, I'm just going to go ahead and press, single press quickly. And then I'll go all the way around back to F1. So now I just let it be, and now I'm transmitting on band F, channel 1. So that's how you navigate the menus on this little VTX. Now we have to find that. I'm going to plug in the goggles, and I'm going to show you. I'm clicking this button up here. So if you hear that clicking and you see stuff changing, I'm just pressing that one button. That's all I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to just, there's two ways to do this. You can press and hold the button. You can press and hold, and then whenever you see the image, let go, and then single press to go back. So you're advancing, advancing, advancing. You pass the channel, and you click to go back, go back, go back to find it again. Or you can just keep clicking forward individually each time until you go back around and find it. Sometimes that's faster. So we'll try it to hold down the button first. Oh, I just saw it. So I'm gonna single click back. There we go. Oh, did I go too far? I think I went too far. So I'm gonna press and hold. There we go. All right, so there we are. With these goggles, it is kind of like a hunt and peck. You kind of have to like pass it up and then click this to go back to find it, but it's doable. It's not that difficult. Once you kind of get the idea of how to go through channels, you'll catch on pretty quickly. Okay, so we're ready to rock and roll. All we gotta do is plug in a battery and go. I'm going to record using my Fat Sharks because they have a DVR. These do not have a DVR. So I'm gonna wear these, I'm gonna fly using this controller, but the video that you're gonna see is being recorded from the Fat Shark. So don't get confused, these don't have a DVR. Alright, now you know how to dip your toes into the pool of FPV for only $100. How cool is that? If you want to see me push the limits of what this little quadcopter is capable of, click up here on the tiny DRL video and you're going to see some awesome footage of just what this little thing can do. I hope you learned something in this video. If you liked it, hit the like button and please subscribe to my channel. That helps me out a lot. If you have any comments or questions, put them down below and I will see you next time.